everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. One of the things that really excites me is, let me make this screen bigger. One of the things that excites me the most is when I hear from you. When I hear from you, um, and you sharing with me the changes that you are going through, how your life is being transformed, how you are changing your way of thinking, your MO, how you are discovering a new you. And let me remind you that you're really going back to who you already are. And you're really remembering. And what you're doing is you're creating a new framework. If the framework that you lived on for these many years is based on fear, then that, of course, keeps you in survival mode. If your life is based on a framework of fear, it keeps you in survival mode. With a mindset that nothing is safe around you. You're always on guard. You're always looking out. Something is about to happen. Someone's about to get you. You're always trying to perform. You're always trying to be on your best behavior. You're always hoping and praying for things instead of aligning and knowing that you are the creative agency of yourself. So it's really getting out of that survival mode and getting into a place of authorship. That's when life really begins. When you really come into, is like Carolina said, it's a conscious awareness of your identity. And once you come to that place, you function totally different because you will learn some truth. And again, these are your truths. It has to be what resonates with you and what you align with. And you will begin to function by the truth you know. Nothing that we do is either good or bad or right or wrong. Whatever works for you. That's the whole core of this building your identity. When you come into the architecture lab, it's to build what fits you, what works for you. It's like a tailor. It's tailoring your life according to what resonates, what fits, what feels good, what is reasonable. What you can reason through, what you can what works for you, what brings you peace. That is one of the greatest or the most effective markers, at least for me. If I'm going to make a decision and I have peace about it, I don't have any doubt, any worry, any what if, anything like that. I come into a place where I am I am secure in my thoughts, and I take responsibility for the decisions that I make. And in that, my whole self aligns with the things that I wish, want, desire, dream, goals, and so forth. So when I hear from you that you are waking up, it's not to, and again, this is not to take you away from your tradition. It's to make you aware of why you believe what you believe, and even about yourself. And the moment you come to that place where you understand your innate virtues and qualities and worth and value, then you will know that you don't have to fight against yourself. You don't have to think bad against yourself. You don't have to have ill thoughts about yourself, that you're bad, that you're a sinner, that you're unworthy, and all of that, that you're wretched. There is no place for that in your life. But that's not something that someone can teach you. Someone can share it, like me. I'm like a messenger that come to share. But you have to get it for yourself. You have to desire that. And bottom line is, it has to work. I heard from someone last week, and they were they well, some personal things that they shared. But the bottom line is that they made it clear that they are now becoming consciously aware of who they are. And it totally contradicts to what they grew up believing or what they've been taught. And their entire lives, they said, they lived in survival mode, always looking, always wondering, always thinking, hoping, worried, and all of that in survival mode. Work hard, and you must have faith, and you must believe, and you must, and the hustle and grind type lifestyle. And of course, here, I reject all of that because it's not necessary. Once you come to a place where you know yourself, you will understand that grind and hustle and work hard. No, you need to work smart, not hard. And as you work smart, you come to start making decisions for yourself. You take responsibility and accountability for your decisions. You acknowledge your creative agency within you, and you take authorship of the things that you want and desire. It's not difficult. It all Once you make a decision, and I keep saying this because that's really what works. Once you make a decision, you are engaging, you are taking on authorship of your life. You become the author of your life. You become the main character. And everything you realize that comes from within, you will start out or stop actually outsourcing your thoughts, or the information that your thoughts, the things that you desire. You stop outsourcing it, because again, that puts you in survival mode. Why? Because when you outsource the things that you desire, when you hope and pray and so forth, you are depending on someone else to respond, to answer, to give you favor and all that, when it's something that you yourself can create. This has been a kind of a I wouldn't say a rough week, but really a week that's really just kind of put me in a different mindset. And one of the reasons I share this, and I really enjoy sharing about identity and so forth, and getting to know who you are, and appreciating the person that you are, and knowing your worth, your value, and your creativity, and taking authorship of your life, is because if you don't know who you are, you don't in most cases, you won't know what to do. When you're faced with a situation, you would have no trust that it'll work out in your behalf. You wouldn't know how to think critically, and you wouldn't know how to exercise emotional intelligence to stand firm in the things that you know about yourself. Somebody that I've known for many years. We weren't friends, but when I was in corporate America, I knew this person. And I just learned recently that, this person took her life. And I was really shocked because of all the people that you could think of, you would just not think of this particular person taking their lives. And so, it put me in a different mindset to really want to remind you of your worth, of your value, how resilient you are, how brilliant you are, and how that you can take on authorship regardless of what situation you're going through in your life. One of the things that I know of me is wherein a lot of people have like different types of stories. Some are stories of extreme hardship, really extreme hardship, and just bad experiences. And I have not had that. And one of the things that my friend reminded me, she says, you have not had those things because of your mindset. And the more I think of it, it is true. And it's, again, it's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong, but it's just that for me, and this is something that I say all the time. In fact, my husband and I, we say this all the time. Things always turn out in our favor. But that's not even like a mantra. That is something that we really know. Things always work out for our good. Regardless of what it is, where we are, things always work out for our good, in our favor. As a matter of fact, things generally work out even better than we anticipated. Just because that's really the expectation. That's really what we expect. And it's so important that you know and understand that when I say that if your framework is made up of fear, you will always be in survival mode. And survival mode tells you, number one, that you're not in control, that things may be against you. You're trying to perform, you're trying to do good. And if you have a religious mind, you're trying not to offend a deity or God that you serve, or you're trying to gain favor with someone, or you're trying to fit in someplace. You're trying to be nice. That's why I say, I'm not nice, I'm kind. I don't believe in this, because being nice is a social construct. So I don't believe in being nice, but you're kind. And however that's interpreted, that's on you, on them. So it's when you're in survival mode, there is no rest, there is no peace. You cannot be in survival mode and live a soft life. Why? Because a survival mode keeps you, first of all, it keeps you waiting, hoping, worried, believing, trusting, praying. It keeps you always moving, always something, expecting, and trying to do good, and always thinking, what, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I offending someone? You're always, your mindset is never at rest, at peace. You live in a mode of reaction. You react to things as things come up, because life happens to all of us. But then it keeps you in a state of reacting, because instead of knowing, or with a mindset of safety, you're always thinking of protecting instead of expansion. You think of you're staying in this in a comfort zone where it's comfortable, where it's safe, where you feel protected, where you feel included, and you wouldn't dare to go outside of that, go outside of that frame, and you stay locked up, not knowing that you have the ability to take on authorship. You become the architect of your life. And for those of you that are, and I know it happens in baby steps. My husband and I were talking about that last night, that it's not, as a matter of fact, I was sharing with him that because, I got some information from someone that said, wow, I got it, conscious awareness of who I am. And they were just elaborating, and we were like, wow, that is really true. Or that's what happens in the mind. And I shared with him how, for me, coming out, because when you are coming out into your authentic self, there's some things that you're going to leave behind. There's some conversations that will no longer interest you. There's some relationships that will not serve you anymore. It's not that they're bad. It's just that you may have outgrown that type of or that circle, and you may have elevated to another level. And again, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. You were just in a different plane. So I said to my husband that for me, when I was coming out and getting to that place where I knew who I was, and I was no longer afraid to speak my piece and to reject the traditional things that I once believed, and to be outspoken about it and so forth. And I said to him, the only time I would talk about it is when I was absolutely sure it was mine. It's when I embodied the experience, when I embodied the truth and start living the experience, when I start to feel it and to really have the emotions of something new, something good. And that's what happens with time. You start you read and you think and you process and you analyze and you think about it and you do your research, and once you get it in your system, once it becomes yours, that's the embodiment of the idea, the philosophy, the truth. It becomes your truth. And once that happened, then I was in a position to stand tall. I could stand confident and share what became mine. Because even if I read something uh, in a book, or listen to an audio or whatever, from someone else, obviously, that's not mine yet. What I do, and sometimes I take the information and I process it for it to work for me. I process it in a way that would work for me. It becomes mine. I embody the information. It's like saying, yes, that makes sense. Or like, how did I not see that? Of course, that's the way it is. And it takes resonance in your core. It takes resonance and resident as well. And you come to a place where and then of you're not afraid of pivoting from one set of belief to knowing who you are. And once you know who you are, then everything changes. Everything changes within you. You can speak with conviction, and it doesn't matter if 2 billion people believe the same thing. It does not matter. If what you believe you're the only one, then that becomes your truth. But it has to work for you. And my life has proven that the direction that I have gone in works for me. The direction that I have gone in, the new belief that I have taken on, the things that the lifestyle, the dynamics, the whole sense of aligning myself with the things that I want and desire works for me. And I don't, it's like the other day I said, I don't go through things like having a mantra. That you may need that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't, I come to a place where I embody something, because for me, and I guess my mantra, perhaps, or whatever things that I may say, it's not something that I say audibly and saying this like, I am worthy, I am worthy. I no longer have to tell myself that, because it's something that I know. But whatever it is that I am aligning with, because remember, whatever it is that you desire, whether it's to discover your identity or something that you want, maybe something material, whatever it is, that already exists. That already exists. There's a version of you that already possesses that, and you have to come into alignment with that. But My framework is made up of thoughts, my thoughts based on authorship, me taking responsibility and, using my creative agency to create that which I want, the lifestyle that I want. If you don't create the lifestyle that you want, then what's going to happen is that the lifestyle that you live, the lifestyle that you have, will be based on the imposed identity that you're functioning in. Instead of discovering your real identity, because it's only, there are only two. It's one that's been imposed upon you. And again, the identity that's been imposed upon you is an identity with a framework created out of fear. And again, fear is an external agency. It's, that's outside of you, because it's based on what if, or what if this happened, or what if I do this, or what if I fail, or what if I, don't know the right answer, or what if it doesn't go through, or what if I don't get it, or what if I don't, what if they don't like me, what if I don't fit in? And you're always asking yourself these questions. Why is that? Because you're not secure. You don't know who you are. You want something and you don't know how to go about it, but if you know how to go about, if you become the author, again, taking on authorship, that is, see, if you're not, if you're in a survival mode, that means you're not thriving, because to thrive is the opposite of to survive. And I know this person that I would say, how are you doing, or whatever, I don't, but anyway, and they would say, all right, here, surviving. And so now I stop asking that question, because it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not for me, but for them. I want to say, no, but and of course it's probably a cliche, but I still don't even deal with cliches, because words are words. And whatever words you keep repeating over and over and over and over and over becomes part of you. And that would become your mindset of surviving. My mindset is that of thriving. And you have to decide what your mindset is, because whatever your mindset is contingent upon the thoughts that you have within yourself. The thoughts that you have within yourself. You want to practice. You want to practice creating a thriving environment. Get away from all the chaos and the drama and all the distractions, whatever connections you may have that keeps you always with something going on. And it doesn't matter who they are. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your relative. It doesn't matter. Co-workers, work associate, business partner. It doesn't matter. Always seek for an environment that is peaceful, an environment that offers peace, an environment that keeps your nervous system regulated. There's just nothing better than, and when I talk about your nervous system being regulated, I am so conscious of that throughout the day, if I get a little anxious or something, I always go and check. I always, why am I anxious? Now, I could be excited about something because, some amazing things are happening in our lives, but I could be excited about that, but I don't want to be anxious. And because, with anxiety comes stress and all of that. And so I always try to think, okay, where do I need to kick back to make sure that my nervous system is rightly regulated? And it's something that I do now automatically, simply because I know the dynamics of it. But there was a time that when I was learning about this, because this is all neuroscience, and it is true. And when I was learning it, I had to know, number one, what is your nervous system, and how do you make sure that it stays regulated, and what are the triggers, things that triggers you and so forth. Because if it's not regulated, then you are subject to stress, depression, anxiety, and all of those emotions that are raises your cortisol level, and that's not good for your entire body, your well-being, and so forth. So for those reasons, I am mindful of always making sure. And besides, I want to stay you know happy, content, joyful. That's just me. You have your own thing. You know what works for you, and what works for you has validity. What works for you is your truth. What works for you is what you should pay attention to. I'm making it cooler in my house because it's just a little warm. What works for you, is what will be effective in whatever area that you. Why? Because remember, you have taken on authorship. Always think of things in that way. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, people, if you don't know anything, if you're not conscious, they were saying how important and interesting this whole topic of identity is, because if you don't know who you are so easily manipulated. You are so easily led astray, led down a rabbit hole, led to believe things that doesn't even make sense. And there was a time that I was there. So this is not like I've always known this. There's always been something on the inside of me that wanted self-government. There has always been that sense on the inside of me. Like I mentioned to you before, if you recall, I was in boarding school when I was younger for 3 years. And, I got expelled 3 times. And it was all because of mischief. There were 3 of us, Ofma, Olga, and myself. And Ofma Rivas, Olga Hernandez, and myself. And just mischief. And, I was expelled. I was kicked out. And, my dad, he had some influence, and he got me back into school. And then, a few months passed, and we did some things in the dorm or outside in the field or something like that. And I was kicked out again. And my dad got me back in. And, I was just trying to be good, trying to perform, trying to abide by the rules, trying to be compliant, trying to obey, trying to submit. And those things just do not go with my identity. That it just doesn't. I am a person that needs a sense of freedom, of liberty, of the ability to think critically and to make decisions for myself and to take responsibility for myself. And the thing is that when the 3rd time after they took me back, well, I mean, they expelled me the 3rd time. That's it. They said no more. She's just a piece of work, and they would not take me back. And then I was there in home in my community, and my parents, they took me to a psychology. They just thought what's wrong with her, and then the psychologist said there's just simply nothing wrong with her. She is missing her environment. So I was placed in a local school and I began to thrive. To thrive. I was, a great student. I became COD is Cuerpo de Orden y Disciplina, and that's like the body of excellence and order, behavior, and so forth. And I was like, I'm not sure what they call that in English, but it's like when you are, if there's any situations there, I would be the one they come to for guidance and leadership and control. If there was some kind of dispute, they would come to me. I wasn't the only one. In every group, there was a COD, and I became that, and that's by I was I elected, appointed. The point is, I became a COD, and that was to be able to keep the discipline, to keep order, congeniality, cohesiveness among the student body, and so forth. Why? I was in my environment, and I began to thrive because I had that freedom. There was no, and of course, we're in a cultural, construct, wherever you are, societal construct, cultural construct, whatever. But the point is, it's like traffic light. Traffic light, you're gonna obey the traffic light. Why? Because first of all, you don't want to hurt somebody, and you don't want to hurt yourself. So you use reason for your own life. So going back then, that there was that thing on the inside of me where I always wanted to be self-governed. And the years that I spent under that whole mindset of doctrine, indoctrination, I was indoctrinated. Absolutely. My mind was indoctrinated. Even though there was a thing in the back of my mind that just resisted that, but it was so strong that I kind of went along with it, even though I had a lot of questions. And privately, in my private time, I would try to just speak out. But of course, there was fear and apprehension and what if and so forth. And you want to, everything is performative. So my life was performative based on a set of rules, based on a set of rules, based on a set of guidelines. And it's a guideline to please and to make sure you don't offend and to fit in and to make sure that you're not caught someplace doing something out of that framework and so forth. It's just performative, and it became normal. And that's what happens. It becomes the norm until you wake up. Until you wake up. And it's to pivot from that many years of indoctrination to the place where I am today. That's something that was progressive. And now when I hear you talk about it, as a matter of fact, this person said, let's see here. She said, what happens is that she took to the unknown and she was trapped in books, rules, and fear. That's what she said. She said she took to the unknown, something outside of her. Books, rules, and fear. And she says her whole identity was based on that. She said she was trapped. She said she was trapped. She said she was trapped by the thought of living for either, subject to punishment or reward. Punishment or reward. That was her, everything that she did, that was her mindset. Is she going to be punished for this? Or what's her reward? Just imagine. Oh my gosh, she said her behavior was so monitored. Her behavior was self-monitoring behavior. And she said that her mindset was like a surveillance camera. Her mindset. She would have, she said sometimes she would have thoughts of things, she would want things, and then, in her mind she would be like, that's too much. Or sometimes she would lust after someone. She was single, or she is single. And she said sometimes she would lust. She would see someone, she would lust, and then there would be a battle between, and she was just looking at whomever and lusting, just having lustful thoughts. And it was just a constant surveillance mindset, and she didn't know how to get rid of it. And so she would live in fear of being punished or condemned. And she would try to get out of it, but the more she tried, the more she lusted, it was something else. That's what she said. She said her behavior was so monitored, self-monitored by herself. And she just could, and then she heard this about identity. What is your identity? Who are you? What are the attributes that make you up? What are the characteristics? What's your worth, and where does it come from? What's your value? What standards do you have for yourself? What are your boundaries? What boundaries that you have set up for yourself? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you know for sure that you can walk confidently, knowing that whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you desire, you are confident that you are okay? And she said little by little, as a matter of fact, she said, I'm still working on it. She said, I'm still working on it. She said this punishment and reward dynamic, she said that's just heavy, because everything that she did, every thought that she entertained, she would think about being punished or being rewarded. And she just didn't know how to handle that. Kept her in constant fear. She was anxious. And then when she could not live up, it's like people that are in a diet. You're in a diet and you want to do so well. You want to avoid this and you want to avoid sugar and ice cream and whatever. And then you have a, pint of ice cream, and then you put yourself in the dumps and whatever. And, that's why I could just never diet. That just doesn't work for me. Because if I want ice cream, I'm going to have ice cream. And I'm going to regulate and moderate the way I eat, I'm going to do that. You take authorship. This is what I want for myself. This is what I desire for myself. This is how I take care of myself. This is how I want my health to, in this direction, to guide myself to be healthy in this direction and so forth. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Today I may just go off and do a whole bunch of stuff and not fast or not whatever, and then tomorrow I may just get back on track. No guilt, no shame, no judgment, no pressure, no stress. And that's life. That's life. But in the meantime, if I decide to have a pint of ice cream, which I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to eat it with guilt. I am going to enjoy every bit of it. Every bit of it. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it without guilt. That's life, my friend. That is life. Now, if you have situations like a medical condition, you need to pay attention to that, because again, it's for your health. It's for your well-being. So when you take on authorship, You will be taking now. Let's say, for instance, somebody that has diabetes, and I'm not sure how that's regulated, but there's like A1C and blah blah blah, all of that. You know what you need to do in order to avoid any kind of spike, I guess is what it's called, in your blood sugar level and things like that. You you take on authorship. It is you. You are in control. You are self-governed. It is energetic sovereignty. You are the boss. You are the ruler. You are the leader of you. That is so fascinating because you don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait to be validated or to be affirmed. You don't have to wait for any of that. You are in control. And if you blow it, then you take responsibility for it. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have had that, but I had that, and this is what happened. Okay, and you try to get back on track. Survival mode, my friend, is not healthy. Survival mode keeps you, again, survival mode keeps you with a framework of fear. Fear that you won't succeed. Fear that you won't, things won't happen for you. Fear that this could happen. Fear for your kids. Fear for your job. Fear just keeps you in fear. Fear that if you do this or you go there, you won't fit in, or you will be ostracized, or they won't like you anymore. And I'm telling you, you may lose some, and it's not even a matter of losing relationships. It's just that things shift. Things shift. You come into a new circle of like-minded people. You come into a new circle of friendships, relationships. It's not a matter of again, good or bad, right or wrong. It's just that there will be visible changes in your life because people that I knew before, they would probably say, well, not her. She would be the last person that they would think that would become a heretic, stray away from the doctrinal teaching that I've had along the years. Of course, I've been away from religious doctrine in a very long time. This year marks 17 amazing years, and we have just had an amazing time growing and expanding and keeping open mind and just really growing in this area of our journey, discovering, because your identity is not something that it's not something that you discover and this is who I am and the book closes. No, because why? You're exposed every day to new things, new cultures, new people, new information, new ideology, new philosophy, new views, new opinions, and you have a conglomerate of thinking, of experiences, and you bring it together, and that's what you take what works for you and you just filter the rest if it doesn't work for you, and then you embody whatever it is, because whatever it is, it has to enhance your life. It has to enhance your life, and that's why it's so important to the circle of friends, the circle of the people that you surround yourself with. It's just like over the weekend we went to a gathering, and these people are so amazing. The amazing thing about these people is that everybody, and there were probably, I don't know, 25, 30 people, everybody that was there are people that are well traveled, and one worked at the what do you call it, the international agency out of New York, and station over here, and business minded people, but they're well traveled. So we were talking about, and of course the hectic life that they had was over, and and now of course they have transitioned into a life that's a little more relaxed and so forth. So I was sharing with them about the soft living, and many of them knew about it, but they didn't really hone in on it as if like to understand what it means. And so I made sure and preface, and I said, the soft life, soft living is not about being lazy. It's just about taking control and aligning yourself with the things that are important to you, the things that interest you, and know that you don't have to rush, you don't have to work hard to get it done, you don't have to grind, you don't have to hustle to get things. No, you just make a decision in every moment and you take authorship of whatever it is that you want. And one of the ladies that was there, and she travels all over the world. She's a psychologist, and I think her company's is in Switzerland or something. So she's always in Europe back and forth. So she had this birthday party, and this was back a couple weeks ago. And the first time it was scheduled, there was inclement weather, so it had to be canceled. And then she scheduled it for 2 weeks later. Well, we had a commitment 2 weeks, the same time that she rescheduled it. And so we had seen her at another party, and she says, "No, I expect to see you there at my so and so." So my husband and I, we were saying, well, we had this commitment, but then we had planned to go to her, party at a steakhouse and so forth, and then the time was approaching, and we just had to make a decision. We just my husband and I said, what's gonna, what are we gonna do? And so we said, well, we set aside that date, the original date, to go. And of course, because of the inclement weather, it had to be canceled. And for this new date, we already had a commitment. So we thought, even though we appreciate this person very much, we're going to keep this commitment. And we did. So when we saw her this weekend, she was like so upset because she had sent me videos of what happened at her event and so forth. And she was disappointed that we didn't go. But it was for us, it was not a big deal. For her, it could have been, she was very disappointed because she expected to see us there. But I said, the dates didn't work out for us. And that's it. We didn't go into, well, you changed the date from here to here, and we already had a commitment. And we didn't go into any of that. I said, well, the date just did not work for us. And that's it. Just soft living. And she was okay with that, or at least, I was okay with that. And that was the end of it. I didn't get into any explanation or apologies or, oh, we'll make it next time. None of that. I just said, the date just did not work for us. And that's the truth. So it's just really handling life step by step, and just making it easy. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to explain. You don't have to give an excuse. You don't have to lie. You don't have to be dodge somebody's like, oh, what are they going to say? No, none of that. None of that. You become the author of your life, and you're the one that is taking the the steering wheel of your life. And if somebody doesn't like it, then oh well. That's just life. You see, so it's not, it becomes thriving. You thrive. You don't like survive like, oh, what are we going to tell her? And then you make up stories and then you have to lie. No, none of that. None of that. You live with a mindset that thrives. When you make decisions, you are living with a mindset of thriving in everything that you do. If you are still in corporate America and you want to increase your finances, now, depending on the structure of the organization, but don't take no for an answer. Do what you need to do. Do it the best you can. Stand out. Even if your peers say that you're extra, even if people think you're doing extra, you're doing too much, it doesn't matter. Whatever your objective is, you ought to be able to do that. And, even with, I belong to some networks and so forth and whatever. And the more I think of it, doing business today, it's not just like it, it's all strategy. I was talking to my niece the other day, and we were talking about that. We were talking about how at Harvard they offer these courses in business strategy, and we were just talking that you have to be able to think, to exercise critical thinking skills relative to your business, to allow your business to grow. And you need to know how to work that. And then we were talking about an experience of, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before, of the woman who opened the coffee shop and it just was not thriving. It was not moving. No one would come and so forth, and all of that. And she went to this person, this millionaire, and he said something like, "You're not there to only to sell coffee. You're there to uh, to run a business and to do well to people." And so he said to her, send out a whole marketing campaign and tell people that there is free coffee at this place. The coffee is free, and have them show up for free coffee. In the meantime, you're gonna have slides and sandwiches and croissant and some cream brulee dessert, and you're going to have a whole bunch of other things that go along with it. You offer the coffee that's free, and in most cases, just about all cases, they will buy a croissant to go with the coffee. And she began to do that. And then after that, she started offering some kind of reward thing. You pay like $5 for a reward card. And the more coffee you make, no, the more coffee you buy, the more, reward you get and so forth. And the point is, this person was making something like $10,000 a month because of the business strategy she executed for her coffee shop. And that's what life is all about. Whether you are uh, an entrepreneur, running your own business, or running a household. I was sharing with another person. I said, your children, don't give them chores, and then at the end of the week, give them an allowance. Growing up, we didn't have chores because we had help. But my dad every week gave us an allowance. And that didn't, it helped us then because I was able to buy, it was something like $10 a week or something. And I was able to buy, all I bought is candy, because if I needed clothes, they would, that was not part of our allowance. The allowance was to buy things that we wanted to buy. And all of it for me, was candy, 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 candy. But that was like in that era, in that season. Today, you don't give your kids chores, give them a job. You must give them a job, make them work. And let's say, for instance, and we were talking about that, my husband and I, and let's say, for instance, you have a son or whatever, your 6-year-old or however early you want to start. Give them a job. Your job is to pick up the toys every night at the end of the evening. Pick up the toys. And at the end of the week, you're going to have 3 chores. You're going to pick up the toys. You are going to get your pajamas out, and whatever it is that kids do, you're going to sort the toys in the boxes and so forth. That becomes a job. And if you tell the kid at the end of the week, we will pay you $5 if you do this job every night. Of course, whatever age, whether it's, 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever. And of course, you're going to assign the job relative to their ages. If you have a kid that's 10, and if he has to get the trash together and take out the trash, that becomes so. I was sharing with them. I said, okay, let's say, for instance, let's say a 10-year-old kid, and at the end of the week, you're going to give them, let's say, $10, and you say the trash should be taken out 3 times a week. That is your job. I will not remind you. That is your job to do. So you take out the trash 3 times a week, and that's going to be $5 for that. And then you're going to clean your bathroom, and that will be $3 for that. And then you're going to pick up your room. That's a job. There's $2 for that. And that becomes $10 at the end of the week. And then throughout the week, you don't remind them. It's just like when you're working out. Your manager is not going to remind you what to do and when to do it and how to do it. No, you have a job. You take on the responsibility. So I said, and at the end of the week, then they're ready to be paid. Now, you keep track. If they took out the trash the 3 times a week, then of course they have earned $5. And if they clean the bathroom once a week or whatever, however often you have them clean it, then they get $3. And then the other one is to pick up their room, there's $2. And then let's say they fulfill all their responsibility. They're accountable. They are responsible for those work, that job. And then you have $10. Okay. $5 is invested in, you get 3 envelopes. $5 go in an envelope, and that is for savings, investment, and so forth. And to those $5, you're going to add like $2 so that he can see how that money can grow. $3 of that, once he's done all the, if you clean the bathroom and so forth, $3 goes to for himself. You can put that money aside and you can buy whatever you want with those $3. And then the $2, that is for charity. That is monies that you set aside for charity. And you can give that money to a kid that may not, that may be less fortunate, or give it to a charity organization, or just give it to someone. Give it to someone on the street. Do whatever you want, but that is for giving. So $2 for giving, $3 for yourself to spend on yourself, and $5 to invest. And this way you start building a mindset that is discipline in work, not chores, but work and entrepreneurship. Imagine at the end of the year, if this person, if the kid does the work consistently, they develop a mindset of being responsible and accountable. Now, if they don't do it, or if they miss it, then they don't get paid the $3. And it's not your responsibility to remind them and to tell, no. They must remember. You may start perhaps the first 2 weeks and so forth, but after that, it's their responsibility to remember, to be responsible, and to be accountable. And that's the 21st century. That is today, how your mindset, how you think today. That is a whole different mindset. So the kid start learning to take on authorship of his own life. Imagine that. You can do that in your life as well. But that's what I shared with the family member. I said, don't give them chores, not chores. Give them a job and pay them. Don't give them chores and then an allowance. Give them a job and then you pay them. Life today, my friend, is about thriving. It is not about surviving. It is thriving in everything that you do so that you can live a soft life, have your nervous system regulated so that you can enjoy life unapologetically. You become the author of your life to live it the way you want. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, so that you can sup on that. Now, remember, every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, I am right here. And you can pick up the feed. If you can't meet me here at 2 p.m., you see the icons over here: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can pick it up 24/7. Also, if you wish to drop me a note, go to uh, info at the CynthiaLinoxShow.com and drop me a note, and I will respond to you. And if there's anything that you want me to share in particular, just let me know, and I will kind of tailor my show around what you have requested. In the meantime, have a fantastic weekend, whatever you do, and I will see you next week, same time, same place, uh, right here.